I'll never forget the silence that followed. 43 years I'd been setting tables in this house. 43 years of Sunday dinners, birthday cakes, and holiday feasts. But that night, as I watched my daughter-in-law's face drain of color across the mahogany table my late husband built with his own hands, I knew something had fundamentally shifted. The fork in her hand trembled, just slightly. But I saw it. And she knew I saw it. My son was still chewing, oblivious. My grandchildren were passing the potatoes. But between us, between me and the woman who'd been systematically erasing me from my own home for 2 years, the air had turned to ice. They say respect is earned, not given. That night, I collected a debt 2 years overdue. But let me back up. Let me tell you how it started, because nothing ever begins at the end. My name is Margaret. I'm 71 years old, and until 2 years ago, I thought I knew exactly who I was. I was Robert's mother. I was Grandma Maggie to 3 beautiful grandchildren. I was the woman who kept this 3-story Victorian running like clockwork, even after my Thomas passed 5 years ago. This house has good bones. Thomas and I bought it in 1979 for $32,000. Can you imagine? It needed work back then. The wallpaper was peeling, the floors creaked like old knees, and the kitchen was stuck somewhere in the 1950s. But we saw potential. We saw home. We raised Robert here. We hosted every Christmas, every Easter, every 4th of July barbecue. After Thomas died, suddenly, a heart attack while mowing the lawn on a Tuesday afternoon, this house became my anchor, my purpose. Every room held a memory. Every creaking floorboard was a conversation with the past. Then, Robert met her. Amanda. Don't get me wrong. When Robert first brought her home 3 years ago, I was thrilled. My son was 42, divorced for nearly a decade, throwing himself into his work as a corporate attorney. I'd almost given up hope he'd find someone. Amanda was 36, beautiful in that polished way some women are. Everything coordinated, nothing out of place. She worked in pharmaceutical sales, drove a sleek black Audi, and had a laugh that sounded like wind chimes. Delicate, careful, controlled. "Mom, this is Amanda," Robert said, that first Sunday, his eyes bright with something I hadn't seen since his 20s. Hope. "Mrs. Thornton, it's such a pleasure," Amanda said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "Robert has told me so much about you. And this house, oh my goodness, it's absolutely charming. So much character." The pause before character was so slight, I almost missed it. Almost. "Please, call me Margaret," I said, pulling her into a hug instead of shaking her hand. That's how we do things in this family. We hug. "And welcome. Let me show you around." I should have paid more attention to how she touched things as we walked through the house. Her fingers would hover over surfaces, the antique sideboard in the hallway, the collection of Thomas's fishing trophies in the den, and the slightly faded curtains in the living room, but never quite make contact, as if she was afraid of catching something. "So cozy," she kept saying, but her smile never quite reached her eyes. They got married 8 months later. Small ceremony, very elegant. Amanda's family flew in from Connecticut. Old money, the kind that whispers rather than speaks. Her mother looked at our house the same way Amanda had, with that same hovering, not quite touching assessment. "Well," Amanda's mother had said to me at the reception, her voice honey-sweet, "you must be so relieved Robert found someone who can help organize things. At your age, keeping up with a house like that must be exhausting." I smiled. "I managed just fine, thank you." But the seed was planted. I realize that now. It started small. Little things I told myself I was imagining. About 3 months after the wedding, Amanda and Robert came for Sunday dinner, our tradition. I'd made pot roast, Robert's favorite since he was 10 years old. The meat had been braising for hours, filling the house with that rich, savory smell that always made him smile. We were seated around the dining room table, the one that seats 8 comfortably. I had set it the way I always did. The good china that was my mother's, the cloth napkins, the crystal water glasses Thomas bought me for our 20th anniversary. "This looks wonderful, Mom," Robert said, reaching for the serving spoon. "Wait," Amanda said, her hand catching his wrist. "Margaret, do you mind if I asked, when was the last time you had your water tested? Old houses can have issues with the pipes, and lead contamination is more common than people think." The table went quiet. My hand, reaching for the bread basket, froze in midair. The water's fine, dear. We've never had any. Oh, I'm sure it's probably fine," she continued, her voice light, musical even. "But at your age, it's easy to overlook these things. Robert, honey, maybe we should bring our own filtered water next time, just to be safe." She smiled at me. That smile. Like we were sharing a joke. Like she was helping. Robert looked uncomfortable. "Amanda, I'm sure Mom's water is—" Of course, of course. I'm just being overly cautious. It's the healthcare training. We're taught to think of everything." She patted my hand. Patted it. Like I was a child who'd tried their best. "The roast smells amazing, Margaret. Really. So traditional." That word. Traditional. The way she said it, it sounded like outdated. I served the meal, we ate. Robert complimented the food 3 times, trying to smooth over the awkwardness, but I'd lost my appetite. The crystal glass in my hand suddenly felt heavy. Was it clean enough? Were there water spots? Had I overlooked something? That's how it began. The quiet unraveling of my confidence, one gentle correction at a time. 2 weeks later, they came for dinner again. This time, Amanda brought a casserole. "I hope you don't mind, Margaret," she said, breezing into my kitchen with a covered Pyrex dish. "I know you always cook, but I thought it might be nice to give you a break. You do so much already." She set the dish on my counter, on top of the pot holders I'd crocheted last winter, and began opening my cabinets. "Amanda, what are you—" "Just looking for serving spoons, don't worry." She pulled open drawer after drawer, her face a mask of concentration. Margaret, do you have any organization system here? It's a little chaotic." My kitchen. The kitchen I'd worked in for over 4 decades. Chaotic. "Everything has its place," I said, my voice tighter than I intended. "I know where everything is." "Oh, I'm sure you do. But, there are some great organizational tools now. Pinterest has wonderful ideas for optimizing kitchen storage, especially for older layouts. I could help you reorganize sometime if you'd like. Make things easier to reach." Easier to reach. As if I were some feeble old woman who couldn't lift a pot. Robert appeared in the doorway. "Everything okay in here?" "Perfect," Amanda chirped. "Your mom and I were just talking about doing a little kitchen refresh. Wouldn't that be fun?" She looked at me expectantly, waiting for me to agree, to thank her for her generous offer to fix what wasn't broken. "That's very kind," I managed, "but I'm quite happy with how things are." Her smile dimmed, just for a second, but I caught it. That flash of something cold behind her eyes. Irritation, maybe even anger. "Of course," she said smoothly. "It's your kitchen. I just thought, well, never mind. Change can be hard at our age, can't it?" At our age. I was 71. She was 36. But somehow she'd managed to lump us together as if we were both elderly women clinging to our old ways. The incidents multiplied. Each one small enough that complaining would make me look petty, sensitive, difficult. She started calling ahead for their visits. "Margaret, we're planning to come by Sunday. What are you making?" "Oh, pot roast, Erin? Robert's doctor mentioned he should watch his red meat intake. Maybe something lighter?" I can send you some heart-healthy recipes if that would help. She'd rearrange things when she came over. I'd find my cookbook stacked differently, my mail moved from the counter to a drawer, my reading glasses placed somewhere safer. I was just tidying up a bit, she'd say when I asked. This house is so big, it must be overwhelming to maintain at your age. I'm happy to help. She started bringing cleaning supplies. These are much better than what you're using, Margaret. Non-toxic, eco-friendly. I noticed some of your products are probably older than Robert. We should really update your cleaning routine. My cleaning routine. As if decades of keeping a spotless home counted for nothing. Then they moved in. Just temporarily, Robert explained one Thursday evening, his hands shoved deep in his pockets, not quite meeting my eyes. The condo they're building got delayed. The contractor says maybe 4 months until it's ready. Amanda and I talked, and, well, this house has so much space. We thought, of course, I said, because what else could I say? This is your home too, Robert. You grew up here. The relief on his face made my chest ache. My son, my boy, who used to tell me everything. Thanks, Mom. You're the best. And hey, it'll be nice, right? Like old times. But it wasn't like old times. Amanda moved through my house like a general assessing conquered territory. Within a week, she'd organized the living room, moving furniture to improve the flow. She had replaced my kitchen curtains with ones she said were more contemporary. She had put my collection of porcelain birds, Thomas bought me one every anniversary, into a box in the basement. For safekeeping, they're so delicate, and with me coming up and down the stairs so much, I'd hate for something to break. Don't worry, I labeled the box. My birds. 23 of them. 23 years of marriage, tucked away in the dark. I stood in the basement holding the box and felt something crack inside me. Not break, not yet, just crack. Dinner became a performance, a nightly test I didn't know I was taking. I'd set the table, and Amanda would reset it. Forks go on the left, Margaret. Did you forget? Said with a laugh, but her eyes would flicker to Robert. See how she's getting? I'd serve the meal, and she would inspect it. Oh, you know what this needs? Fresh herbs. I always keep fresh herbs on hand. Here, let me just... And she'd take over, seasoning my food, improving my cooking in front of my son. She started answering my phone. Thornton residence, Amanda speaking. As if it was her house, as if I were some forgetful old woman who couldn't manage my own calls. Margaret, your friend Dorothy called. I told her you were napping. You do seem to need more rest these days, don't you? Perfectly natural at your age. I hadn't been napping. I'd been reading in my room, my one refuge, because I couldn't bear another hour of watching her rearrange my life. She'd intercept my mail. Oh, this is another bill you forgot to pay. See, Robert, this is what I've been worried about. Maybe we should set up automatic payments for your mother, help her keep track of things. But I hadn't forgotten. I paid my bills on the first of every month like clockwork. She'd simply gotten to the mail before me and hidden the payment confirmations. The dinner table became her stage. Every evening at 6 o'clock we'd gather, Robert at the head of the table, the place that used to be Thomas's, Amanda to his right, me to his left but pushed slightly back as if I were a guest in my own home. She'd intercept my mail. Oh, this is another bill you forgot to pay. See, Robert, this is what I've been worried about. Maybe we should set up automatic payments for your mother. Help her keep track of things. But I hadn't forgotten. I paid my bills on the first of every month, like clockwork. She'd simply gotten to the mail before me and hidden the payment confirmations. The dinner table became her stage. Every evening at 6 o'clock we'd gather, Robert at the head of the table, the place that used to be Thomas's, Amanda to his right, me to his left, but pushed slightly back as if I were a guest in my own home. She'd pepper the conversation with her little corrections. Margaret, You told the story last week, remember? About the time Thomas caught that big fish? We heard it. A gentle laugh. Short-term memory can be tricky, can't it? But I hadn't told that story last week. I'd told a different one about our anniversary trip to Cape Cod. She was gaslighting me, I realized, making me question my own mind. Mom, are you feeling okay? Robert asked one night, his forehead creased with concern. You do seem a little forgetful lately. I looked at Amanda. She was cutting her chicken with surgical precision, a small smile playing at her lips. I'm fine, Robert. Just fine. But I wasn't. I was disappearing. Bit by bit, day by day, she was erasing me. The breaking point came one Tuesday morning. I woke early, as I always do, 5:30, before the sun. It's when the house is quietest, when I feel most myself. I went downstairs to make coffee, my ritual, my moment of peace before the day begins. The kitchen had been rearranged again. My coffee mugs, the ones I'd collected over the years, each with a memory attached, were gone from their shelf. In their place were matching white ceramic cups, pristine, sterile, without history. I found my mugs in the back of the highest cabinet, the one I could barely reach even with my step stool. Out of sight, I whispered to myself. Out of sight, out of mind. That's what she wanted. Me, out of sight. Out of my own home. I stood there in my kitchen, and felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel since Thomas died. Rage. Pure, white-hot rage. No. No more. I'd raised a son in this house. I'd mourned a husband in this house. I'd celebrated and cried and loved and lived in every room, every corner. This was my home. The deed had my name on it. Mine and Thomas's. And some calculating, condescending woman in her 30s was not going to take it from me. If Amanda wanted a war, she'd get one. But it wouldn't be loud, it wouldn't be obvious. It would be surgical, precise. I'd spent 70 decades on this earth. I'd survived childbirth, loss, betrayal, grief. I'd outlasted trends and fashions and people who thought they were smarter than me. I wasn't some doddering old fool. I was Margaret Elizabeth Thornton. And it was time Amanda learned exactly who she was dealing with. I spent 3 days observing. Really observing. Amanda's routines, her blind spots, the little cracks in her perfect facade. She was methodical, I'll give her that. Every morning at 7:15, she'd come downstairs, already dressed and made up. She'd make herself a protein smoothie, blueberries, spinach, protein powder, almond milk. She'd drink it while scrolling through her phone, usually standing at the counter. She'd leave for work at 8:10. Always 8:10. She'd kiss Robert goodbye, straighten his tie, even when it didn't need straightening, and remind him of whatever evening plans they had. Don't forget, we're meeting the Hendersons tonight at that new Italian place, 7 o'clock. Your mother will be fine on her own for a few hours, said right in front of me, as if I weren't there. Robert would look uncomfortable, glance at me apologetically, but he'd nod. He'd agree. He always agreed with her now. After they left, I'd have the house to myself until 5:30 when Amanda would return, usually with takeout or groceries. She'd banned me from grocery shopping. The store is so overwhelming these days, Margaret. All those choices. Let me handle it. You just relax. But I'd been shopping at Milton's Market for 40 years. Harry Milton still asked about my garden every week. I knew every aisle, every sale, every stock person by name. She'd taken that from me, too. I started in her bathroom. Not the main bathroom, the ensuite attached to Robert's old bedroom where they slept now. I waited until they left for work. Then I went in, not to snoop, to understand. Everything was labeled. Every container, every bottle, every drawer had a label from one of those fancy label makers, vitamins, skincare PM, hair supplements, medications. I paused at that one. I didn't open it, I didn't touch it, but I filed it away in my mind. Amanda was on some kind of medication. Nothing wrong with that, of course, but given how she'd been questioning my mental state, making concerned comments about elderly confusion and age-related decline, well, let's just say it struck me as interesting. I moved to her closet. Everything arranged by color, by season, by formality. Obsessive. Controlling. The closet of someone who needed to control every variable in their life. I understood her now. Amanda wasn't cruel for cruelty's sake. She was terrified. Terrified of chaos. Terrified of things she couldn't control. And I, messy, nostalgic, set in my ways me, represented everything she feared. In her mind, she was bringing order to chaos, fixing what was broken, helping. But you know what? I didn't care about her motivations anymore. Understanding someone doesn't mean accepting their behavior. I found what I needed on the third day. I was dusting the living room. Yes, I still dusted my own living room, despite Amanda's hints that she could hire someone to help, when I noticed her day planner on the side table. She usually kept it in her purse, but she must have forgotten it that morning. She'd been rushing, unusually flustered. Robert had mentioned they had an early meeting with the contractor about the condo. The planner was open to this week. Her handwriting was small, precise, each day color-coded with different pens. And there on Friday, 2 days from now, written in red ink, family dinner, announce news. News? What news? I flipped back through the previous weeks. Doctor's appointments, work meetings, social commitments, and then 3 weeks ago, consultation, elder care solutions. My blood went cold. I flipped forward. Next month, tour Meadowbrook Assisted Living with R. Meadowbrook. The assisted living facility 20 minutes from here, the nice one with the gardens and the activities and the studio apartments where old people go when their families decide they can't manage anymore. She was planning to put me in a home, and she was going to announce it at Friday dinner, publicly, in front of, I flipped back to Friday's entry, Hendersons plus Margaret, 7 p.m. The Hendersons, Robert's old college friends, witnesses. She was going to ambush me with an audience, making it harder for me to object without looking difficult or confused. I stood there holding that planner, and something inside me turned to steel. Friday dinner? Fine. We'd have Friday dinner, but not the one she was planning. I spent Thursday preparing. I called Dorothy, my oldest friend. Dottie, I need a favor. Can you come for dinner tomorrow night, 6:30, and bring Bill? Of course, Maggie. What's the occasion? Let's call it a farewell party. I could hear the frown in her voice. Farewell? Margaret, what's going on? I'll explain tomorrow. Just trust me. And Dottie, trust nice. Next, I called my lawyer, Stephen Chen. He'd handled Thomas's estate, and we'd become friendly over the years. Stephen, I need you to bring something to dinner tomorrow night. The deed to my house and my updated will. Can you do that? Margaret, is everything all right? Everything is about to be. Then I went shopping. At Milton's Market, where Harry lit up when he saw me. Mrs. Thornton, haven't seen you in weeks. I've been, indisposed, but I'm back now, Harry, and I need your help with a very special dinner. Friday evening at 5:30, I was in the kitchen. Not cooking? No, I had prepared everything earlier. The roast was resting, the potatoes were keeping warm, the green beans were perfect. The apple pie, Thomas's favorite recipe, was cooling on the counter, filling the house with cinnamon and butter and memory. I'd set the dining room table myself. The good china, the crystal, the silverware that had been my grandmother's. Fresh flowers in the center, roses from my garden, the ones that Amanda had said needed professional attention. And at each place setting, I had placed a small envelope. Cream-colored, sealed. I heard Amanda's car in the driveway, then Robert's moments later. They'd driven separately. Robert had come from the office. The front door opened. "Margaret!" Amanda's voice, surprised. "Why does it smell like you've been cooking? I told you I was bringing the Hendersons tonight. I picked up catering from—" She stopped in the doorway to the dining room. "What is all this?" Her eyes scanned the table, the candles, the carefully arranged place settings. 8 seats, not 6. "I invited a few additional guests," I said calmly. "I hope you don't mind." "Additional? Margaret, we talked about this dinner. I planned it. I sent the invitations." "Yes, you did. But this is my house, and I wanted to invite my friends." Her jaw tightened. "Robert," she called toward the hallway, her voice strained. "Robert, can you come here, please?" My son appeared, loosening his tie. He looked tired. When had he started looking so tired? "Mom, wow, this looks beautiful. Are we celebrating something?" "We are," I said. "We're celebrating honesty." Amanda's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? The doorbell rang. "That'll be Dorothy and Bill," I said pleasantly. "Robert, would you let them in? And Stephen should be arriving shortly." "Stephen? Mom, what—" "Please, honey, let our guests in." By 6:45, we were all seated. Robert and Amanda, Dorothy and Bill, the Hendersons, Mark and Susan, looking confused but intrigued, Stephen Chen, my lawyer, with his briefcase beside his chair, and me at the head of the table. The head, where I belonged. Amanda kept glancing at her watch. She had tried to take control the moment everyone arrived, directing people to seats, offering drinks, playing hostess in my home. But I'd quietly corrected each attempt, gently, with a smile. "Actually, Amanda dear, why don't you sit there, next to Robert, away from the head of the table?" Her face had gone tight, but with witnesses present, she couldn't object without looking petty. Now we were all seated, and the confusion was palpable. This wasn't the casual dinner the Hendersons had been expecting, and Amanda's careful plans, whatever she had been preparing to announce, had been thoroughly derailed. I stood, my water glass in hand. "Thank you all for coming," I said, my voice steady. "I know some of you are wondering why you are here." Amanda started to speak. "Actually, Margaret, Robert and I had an announcement we wanted to—" "Yes," I interrupted, my eyes meeting hers across the table, "about Meadowbrook Assisted Living. Is that the announcement you meant?" The color drained from her face. Robert's head whipped toward Amanda. What is she talking about?" "I found your planner, Amanda," I continued, still calm, still pleasant. "Wednesday afternoon, you left it on the side table. An easy oversight. We all make them, don't we?" Her mouth opened, closed. No sound came out. I turned to the rest of the table. "My daughter-in-law has been very concerned about my well-being lately, about my memory, my ability to manage this house. She's been documenting what she sees as evidence of my decline, telling my son that I'm becoming forgetful, confused, perhaps even unsafe to live alone." "Mom, I don't understand. Amanda just said you've been having trouble remembering things. She said a lot of things. And you believed her. Because why wouldn't you? She's your wife. And I'm just your elderly mother. I smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. Amanda, would you like to tell everyone what you planned to announce tonight? Or shall I? Her hands were clenched in her lap. Margaret, you're clearly confused. I think maybe we should talk about this privately. I'm not confused. Stephen, I nodded to my lawyer, would you be so kind? Stephen opened his briefcase and pulled out several documents. These are the results of a cognitive assessment Mrs. Thornton requested from Dr. Patterson 3 days ago. She scored perfectly in all areas: memory, reasoning, comprehension. There is no evidence of any decline whatsoever. I watched Amanda's face, the horror dawning there. I also had a chat with Harry at Milton's Market. He was confused when I mentioned that I hadn't been shopping. He said you'd come in twice, told him I was too ill to shop anymore, and asked him not to mention seeing you in case it confused me. You've been intercepting my routine, Amanda. Isolating me, making me seem incompetent. That's not... I was trying to help. Help? Is that what you call taking my belongings and hiding them? Rearranging my home without permission? Answering my phone and telling my friends I was too tired to talk? Intercepting my mail? Robert looked stricken. Amanda? Is this true? She turned to him, her eyes suddenly wet with tears. Robert, you know how worried I've been about your mother. She's getting older, and I thought... You thought you'd push her out, I said flatly. You found my house inconvenient, old-fashioned, full of memories that had nothing to do with you. So you decided to, what, gaslight me into a nursing home so you could redecorate in peace? That's insane. Her voice rose, losing its careful control. I've been nothing but helpful. I've cleaned and organized and tried to make things easier for you, and this is how you repay me? By inventing some paranoid fantasy? Paranoid, I repeated. That's an interesting word choice, almost like you've been rehearsing it. I reached for the envelope at my place setting and held it up. These envelopes contain documentation. Photographs I asked Dorothy to take over the past 3 months. My kitchen before and after you organized it, my belongings boxed in the basement, the bills you told Robert I'd forgotten to pay, with the payment confirmations dated before the due dates. Dorothy nodded grimly from her seat. She called me in April, Amanda, told me she felt like she was losing her grip on reality. So I suggested we start documenting everything. Amanda's eyes darted around the table, looking for an ally, finding none. And this, I said, holding up another document, is a copy of the search history from the family computer, the one in the den. Searches for elderly incompetence legal process, how to get power of attorney, and convincing family member needs assisted living. All from your login, Amanda. The silence was deafening. Robert's face had gone pale. Amanda, he whispered, tell me this isn't true. She tried one more time, turned to him with those tears still glistening. Honey, your mother is manipulating you. Can't you see? This is exactly the kind of paranoid behavior I've been worried about. She's turning you against me. But Robert was looking at the document Stephen was sliding across the table to him. His hands were shaking. You searched for how to have her declared incompetent, he read aloud. Jesus, Amanda, what were you planning? I was protecting us, protecting our future. The tears were real now, but they were tears of anger, not sadness. That condo isn't going to be ready for 6 more months. 6 months of living in this museum, walking on eggshells around her feelings, pretending that everything is fine when it's clearly falling apart. falling apart, I said quietly. Or just not meeting your standards. She turned on me, and suddenly the mask was completely gone. You want to know the truth, Margaret? Fine. Yes, yes, I wanted you out of this house because living here is suffocating. Everything is old and dated and smells like mothballs in the past. I can't change a single thing without you looking wounded. I can't cook a meal without you hovering. I can't breathe in this house without feeling like I'm disturbing some sacred shrine to your perfect life with Thomas. The table sat in shocked silence. You're right, I said finally. This house is a shrine to 43 years of marriage, to raising a child, to building a life. And I won't apologize for that. But you know what, Amanda? You could have talked to me. You could have told Robert you were unhappy. You could have waited for your condo like an adult. I stood, my hands flat on the table. But instead, you decided to destroy my credibility, to make my own son think I was losing my mind, to isolate me from my friends and my routines, to systematically erase me from my own home so you could move into the empty space I left behind. I picked up the final document, the one that mattered most. This is the deed to this house. My name, my late husband's name. Not yours, never yours. And this, I held up another paper, is my updated will. Stephen helped me finalize it yesterday. Should anything happen to me, this house goes into a trust for my grandchildren. Robert gets access at 65, but the house can never be sold, never torn down, never remodeled beyond necessary repairs. Amanda's face went white. You can't. I can. I did. It's done. I looked at my son, whose eyes were red. Robert, I love you. You're my son, and nothing will ever change that. But you need to understand something. This is my home. I've earned it. And I won't be pushed out of it to make room for someone who can't respect what came before her. I turned back to Amanda. You want to know what I learned in 71 years, dear? I learned that disdain is easy. Respect is hard, and you can't fake respect any more than you can fake love. You've treated me like a burden, an obstacle, a confused old woman who couldn't see what you were doing. I leaned forward slightly, my voice dropping. But you made one crucial mistake. You underestimated me. You saw age and assumed weakness. You saw kindness and assumed stupidity. You thought that because I didn't fight back immediately, I didn't know how. The air in the room felt thick, electric. You wanted to educate me, Amanda? Consider yourself educated. This house has rules, and the first rule is respect. You don't have to love me. You don't have to like my decorating choices. But you will treat me with dignity in my own home, or you will leave. Amanda stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the hardwood. Robert, we're leaving now. But Robert didn't move. He was staring at the documents in front of him, his face crumpled with something that looked like grief. Robert! Amanda's voice was shrill now, desperate. Robert's voice was hoarse. I think I need some time to process this. Process? Are you kidding me? Your mother just ambushed us at a dinner party. You were planning to ambush her, Robert said quietly. Weren't you? That's why you invited the Hendersons. You were going to make a public announcement about moving her to Meadowbrook. Make it harder for her to object without looking difficult. Amanda's silence was confirmation enough. Robert stood slowly. He walked around the table to where I stood and wrapped his arms around me, my tall, tired son, who smelled like his father's aftershave. I'm so sorry, Mom, he whispered. I should have seen it. I should have listened. I held him tight. You saw what she wanted you to see. That's what manipulation looks like, honey. It's not your fault. He pulled back, wiping his eyes. Then he turned to Amanda. Pack your things. We're staying at a hotel tonight. A hotel? Robert, this is ridiculous. Pack your things. His voice was steel. We'll talk about this later, away from here. They left within an hour. Amanda, white-faced and silent, throwing clothes into a suitcase. Robert, methodical and somber, not looking at her. The Hendersons left shortly after, stammering apologies and promises to call. Stephen packed up his documents with a satisfied nod. That went better than I expected. Did you expect violence? I asked dryly. I expected drama. You delivered justice instead. Much more satisfying. He squeezed my shoulder. Call me if you need anything, Margaret. After everyone was gone, Dorothy helped me clean up the uneaten dinner. You okay? She asked, scraping plates. I'm furious, I admitted, and sad, and relieved. That's allowed, all of it. She really did a number on me, Dottie. There were days I wondered if I was losing it, if she was right. But you weren't, you aren't, and now Robert knows the truth. Will he forgive her, or will he forgive me? I wondered aloud. Maybe he'll do both, maybe neither, but that's his choice to make. She was right, of course. Robert came by 3 days later, alone. We sat in the living room, my furniture back where I wanted it, my porcelain birds returned to their shelf, and we talked, really talked, for the first time in months. I asked Amanda to move out, he said quietly. We're probably going to separate. Maybe divorce. Oh, honey. No, I can't trust her now, Mom. Every time she said you were confused, every time she suggested you needed help, I believed her. I let her convince me my own mother was incompetent. She was convincing. She was cruel, his voice cracked. And I let her be cruel to you in your own home. I'm so sorry. You're here now. That's what matters. I should have protected you. Robert, I took his hand. Listen to me. You're not responsible for her behavior. You can only be responsible for your own. And when you learned the truth, you acted. That takes courage. I miss you, he said suddenly. I miss Sunday dinners and your terrible jokes and the way you always know when I've had a bad day. I let her come between us and I hate myself for it. Then don't. Don't hate yourself. Learn from it. Grow from it. And come back to Sunday dinners. He laughed, a wet sound. Yeah? Yeah. This Sunday, 6 o'clock. I'll make pot roast. Please do. That was 8 months ago. The condo finally finished construction. Robert lives there now, alone. He comes for dinner every Sunday without fail. We're rebuilding what was broken. It takes time, but we're getting there. Amanda sends lawyers sometimes. Angry letters about the will, about the house, about elder abuse and manipulation. Stephen handles them. They never go anywhere. I heard through mutual friends that she married someone else, quickly. A widower with a penthouse and no complicated family history. I hope he's happy, truly. I don't wish her ill. But I don't forgive her either. Some things can't be forgiven. Only survived. I'm still in my house. Still setting my table. Still making pot roast on Sundays. Still tending Thomas's roses in the garden. Dorothy and I have coffee every Wednesday morning. Harry still asks about my garden at Milton's Market. My grandchildren visit and play in the same rooms their father played in. I'm 71 years old. I've survived grief and loss and a daughter-in-law who tried to erase me. But I'm still here, in my home, on my terms. And that fork trembling in Amanda's hand, that moment when she realized she'd underestimated me, I'll carry that with me forever. Not with cruelty, but with pride. Because I learned something important that night. Age isn't weakness. Experience isn't confusion. And a woman who's survived 70 decades doesn't do it by accident. We survive because we're strong, because we're smart, because we know when to be kind and when to be steel. Amanda wanted to educate me. Instead, she got the lesson of her life. Walking away was the hardest thing Robert did, but also the most necessary for both of us. If this story reminded you of your own strength, of a time you stood your ground when someone tried to diminish you, like this video to claim that power back. Remember, You deserve a life that feels like safety and respect, not a battlefield. Whether it's in your home, your family, or your relationships, your dignity is non-negotiable. Subscribe to her confessions and turn on notifications for your weekly dose of courage and rebirth. Until next time, stay strong.